Welcome back to our Reflecting Back to Spring Forward in Learning Partnership live stream event. Today, I have been so excited with all of our presenters from Keep Indiana Learning, the DOE, and again, DOE Alicia Four joining us from the Department of Digital Learning. I'm so excited to have you with us today, Alicia. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here as well. I've been tuning in, and it's been an amazing summit.
I'm really excited about your session today. I'm going to let you get to it here in just a second because learning to learn again like a kid is so important for us as teachers to recognize where we want our students to be. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Alicia. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lena. I appreciate it. So hi, everyone. Like she said, I am a digital learning specialist with the Department of Education here. So I'm really excited to be with you all today. This is a place, these summits are a place for educators to come together and to learn and to collaborate. And it's just such a great experience to see so many people in the chat all collaborating. So I'm excited and about this idea of reflecting back on the past year or years. We were just kind of chatting about everything that everyone has been through and the growth and experiences and just years down the road, how we're going to look back in this time. So I'm excited about looking back and seeing how we can move forward and navigate in 2022. So for me, in doing my own reflection, reflecting back on the holidays as they were in full swing, you know, I can't believe that things have already, we've been through the holiday season and we're kind of into the new year for good now, right? But the stress of my to-do list was getting to me and everything was just chaotic. And my kids were watching TV and I just happened to hear the jingle, this song come on, and it was the Toys R Us Jingle, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, it immediately took me back to my childhood and how excited I would get when you would walk into Toys R Us. Is there anyone out there who is, you know, in that era of amazing feeling when you walked into that toy store? And you could go in there and you could like see, you know, the toys and feel the toys and hold them in your hand. And you got so excited about seeing those things there on the shelf, right? And I had to think like, gosh, that was such a great feeling for me. And what is the equivalent of that for my kids who are littles? I have littles here. You know, when the Amazon booklet comes in the mailbox, they like to look through it, but I don't know if they really get that like excitement and the eyes are wide and seeing toys on the website just is not the same, right? So just thinking about, reflecting about what triggers that like nostalgic moment for you in which, you know, you were just like so happy or excited and thinking about what that did for you emotionally. How can we apply that to our own adult learning? So thinking about the last time that you were in a learning experience and learning something and you were excited about that learning, what was the topic? Like what environment were you in that space? And share that out with us in the in the chat. And I love it, Sherry. Yes, I have been singing the Toys R Us jingle in my head since I started creating this presentation. And for the last few days as I've been practicing it, and it is there to stay. So yes, I would sing it for you now, but then they might never ever ask me to come back and present on a summit again if I start singing. So share with us out in the chat. When was the last time you were learning something? Like what was that experience where you were just excited and you were engaged and you were like, this is amazing. You got that Toys R Us feeling, right? About that learning. So if you want to share that out in the chat, I'd love to see kind of if there's any similarities between our experiences with learning. And so we're thinking about that experience we had in Toys R Us and that how that applies to our own learning when we can remember having those feelings towards learning. And how can we apply those emotions and experiences of having fun and learning something new in our professional space? And why is that important to do so? Like, why is it important to make sure that we're having fun while we're learning? So one of the people that I've really been following and reading is Dr. Catlin Tucker. And in a blog post, Understanding Teacher Engagement in Blended Learning Environments, she had this graphic and I really loved it, right? So she talked about how teacher engagement is really connected to student engagement. They are a reciprocal thing, right? So when teacher engagement dips, it definitely has a negative effect on that student engagement piece and vice versa. So think about like you're in your classroom and it happened to me all the time, right? I would plan and prep for a lesson and think this is going to be phenomenal. And I would go in there and do it. And you're looking at the faces of all those kiddos and you're like, wow, they really hate this. And it immediately affected my mood and it affected my engagement level, right? So Dr. Tucker uses this graphic to discuss like these different dimensions of teacher engagement. And so how can we make sure that we're participating in and facilitating engaging and fun professional learning opportunities, whether you're a teacher who's going to these professional learning opportunities or you are a provider, a coach, a principal, an administrator, someone like me who is bringing you this summit today. What dimension of engagement are we trying to fulfill? Like what characteristics are the most important? So we're going to share in the chat a link to a collaborative slide deck, and it would be really great if we could possibly take a look at, this is our first slide here. And basically I have these 4 areas of engagement that Dr. Tucker talks about on the slide. And there is cognitive, emotional, and then 2 different types of social. So like a social with your peers and then a social engagement with students, right? So using a text box that I provided for you on the left side of the screen, what are some must-haves that your professional learning experience has to have for it to be fun and engaging for you? And then go ahead and move that box over to what area that really focuses on. Does it focus on your cognitive or your emotional? And our answers don't always have to be the same, right? They can be different because we all have a different place where we find something to be engaging or fun. And so I'm looking in the comments and I love it. Matt was learning about investments and stocks and IRAs. Matt, more power to you. Those things like make me kind of freak out. I have no idea about an IRA. I have no idea about stocks and bonds and all of that stuff. So if that's your fun, your engagement, I love it. Not for me, not for everybody, but thank you for sharing. Sherry likes hands-on learning experiences and doing things with microbits and makeys, which again, that tactile feeling of going into Toys R Us, right? You get to play with it, you get to move it, you get to actually feel it and touch it. So micro learning, it's not big, but makes my brain tingle. So thank you, Marty, for sharing that out. I really like to hear those things. And I see that you all are kind of putting things in there for your learning experiences, the fact that they need to be relevant, that emotionally ties us to it. And we're going to talk about that in a second as well, that it has to be relevant for us to feel something for the content, right? I need to know exactly how I will use this information in the future. Yes, the why is so important for us too. We want to know, why am I here? Why am I spending this time after school? Why am I spending my prep period? Why am I going to this conference? Like, why is this important for me to learn? Donuts help too. Awesome. Whoever put that, thank you. Yes, donuts are great. I love them. Have some in the other room. And I would love to share them all with you. So donuts are always a plus when going to a learning experience. Interactions and connecting to others, right? Definitely important. So thank you all for sharing out those ideas of what makes things engaging and fun. And we can always come back to this. So if you want to continue to add your ideas and thoughts, please do so. So in looking at these 4 areas, I kind of wanted to think about what can we do? What ways can we work towards to make a more fun and engaging professional learning experiences for ourselves, right? Sometimes we get caught up in kind of like a dip, and we want to make sure that we're providing experiences for ourselves and others that are fun. So for the teachers we work with, how can we provide, engaging topics and spaces? Where do we start? So the three things that I really want to focus on today are up here on the screen. So I want to talk about you as a co-creator of the learning, being spontaneous and kind of doing things when you find something that you are engaged with or that interests you, and leaning on a group of like-minded people. So those are the three things that I really wanted to focus on today. So as we look at number one, being a co-creator, think about what ways you are a co-creator in your own learning. So share with us in the chat, if you'd like, any ways that you co-create your own learning experiences. So one way to engage adult learners and infuse that fun is if the audience is part of the planning process, right? So we discuss student voice a lot. I hear that come up a lot, choice and voice. And it's so important in making classroom decisions that we have those things. But why can't we apply those same ideas to adult learners, right? Like just because it says student, why can't we apply it to adults? Instead of talking at teachers about a goal, let them be a part of the goal making process so that they'll have a stake in that learning. I was reading a blog post not long ago, and it was titled "Learning Can Be Fun for Adults." And I was like, yeah, why not? Why can't it be? And they were suggesting in there that including teachers in that decision making when establishing the professional development goals, whether it's for like your team or your school, and encouraging teachers to take make valuable contributions to the advancement of the group is key in making sure that they have buy-in, right? So teachers as co-creators can bring powerful elements to that space, and adults will learn what is meaningful for them. So someone in our collaborative slide deck said, like, I need to know why I'm learning it. I need to know why this is important for me. And that is so true. We're not very inclined to learn something that we're not interested in or that we can't see the importance of. So in thinking about making the why clear to students, we also need to make the why clear to ourselves and to the people that we're learning with, right? The second thing that I wanted us to talk about today was learning and building in the moment. So being a spontaneous learner. And I think that learning is spontaneous and it should happen more often. I love this idea that we suddenly stumble upon something, a learning opportunity, because it piqued our interest in the moment or seemed really interesting. Companies make tons of money off of putting ads on the sides of websites because we look over there, we see something, and all of a sudden we're engaged in that for 10, 15, 20 minutes, right? So how do we kind of bring that same flavor to our learning? Many times as teachers, as educators, we attend a conference. I attended one last weekend, and we see something done in that conference or webinar, and we become excited about it in that moment. But then we go back to our classrooms and we let everything else kind of take front seat to applying that new learning. So why don't we? Why don't we just take what we have and run with it? In a book by Pfeiffer and Simon, The Knowing Doing Gap, they say that the best way to overcome this is to acquire knowledge through doing. So when a person is engaged in the learning, the mind is already at work using those critical thinking skills of figuring out, like, anticipating the challenges. How am I going to confront those challenges? How can I make the best of this new concept? And so don't we apply those same ideas to student learning when we're talking about kids actually learning by doing? What if we invited colleagues into our classrooms and showed them a lesson, right? And instead of just showing them a lesson, how about we engage them in the lesson on the spot? Give them the opportunity. Hey, if you see me and my kids doing something and going through this strategy, feel free to jump in there and work through it with them, or even introduce a strategy that you think may help them in their learning, right? This isn't a structured PD that we're going to in a class. It's not something that someone is telling us that we have to do. This is something that we're walking in, or you're hearing a colleague in the lounge talk about something that they're going to do in their class. And you're like, wow, that sounds really interesting. Can I go in there and check it out and just see what's going on? something that I stumbled on was this Twitter post by Carrie Alliday, and she's actually the director of teaching and learning for preschool through fourth grade at Avon Community School Corporation, and it totally piqued my interest. And thank you, Carrie, for allowing me to use this in my presentation. She was so gracious to say, yeah, go ahead, use it. But I went down this rabbit hole of what is a Build-A-Lab, right? Like, what's that? And I engaged her in that. And I remembered that when I was a student teacher years ago, my cooperating teacher said, you've seen me teach and you've taught, but I really want to see what other people have to offer. So go out there, walk the halls. If you see something cool going on, down in that classroom, knock on the door, see if you can go in and sit in there and see what they're doing. And I did. And one of the most amazing experiences was a teacher named Mrs. Cox, and she was a psychology teacher, and I still count her as a mentor to me today and admire the things that she does in her classroom on a daily basis. And so think about that. Like, have you ever had the opportunity to go into a colleague's classroom? And if so, share with us in that collaborative slide deck. Again, on slide number 2, we have a place for you to put like a wow and a wonder. Like, what is something that wowed you about that experience? Or what is something that you left wondering about that experience that you had observing that colleague, observing that teacher? Because I think it's important for us to learn from each other, right? So if you want to go ahead and jump in there, feel free. I see some people that are already in there, and they're getting some ideas out there. You could just create a text box if you want, and come on up here and click on the text box button and put your information in there. You might need to make that text a little bigger. It's a little small. I don't know if I was thinking that we would have a better vision there or something. So go ahead and add in some whys and wonders as we kind of think about how this could be valuable in our own learning. All right. So we have someone that was able to go see a kindergarten teacher and use some of her small group activities. So that's great. Seeing how it works in someone else's classroom. Someone else says that that they were able to spontaneously stumble upon this live stream, and they've been here for a few hours. So we're happy that you are here with us. That's amazing. That's great. We love having you. All right. Thank you for sharing out in there. Keep putting those ideas for those wows and those wonders. I think it's important for us to share together. The third and final area that I think is important for us to look at is a place to lean, right? So how many of you would currently consider yourself a part of a professional learning community, or a PLC as we'll call them today? PLCs offer us a place to engage with our colleagues in exciting ways. There's a climate of trust and respect from our colleagues that allow individuals to kind of feel like this is a safe place to take risks, and allow me to collaborate with open dialogue and, kind of break down what I'm doing in my classroom, right? It's a place for us to connect for true professional growth. And meeting with a PLC regularly can create a bond with the team, which will then have a ripple effect to school leaders, community, hopefully regionally, and even maybe globally, right? So there's some PLCs that are so big and they just keep having that ripple effect. And when I say a PLC, I don't mean like you need to go sign up for something super formal. It can be me going on Twitter and seeing Carrie's post and being like, wow, what is this? And engaging with her and kind of going more in depth into that idea, right? It doesn't have to be a formal meeting every week with your team or with your district. So you can follow a blog and be on the comments of that. You can be on this Keep Indiana Learning YouTube page, and this is your place to connect with colleagues and to learn, right? So the last collaboration that we have today is a place for us to kind of do some crowdsourcing and to build together where you go for professional learning. Like, what is your PLC? What does that look like? Is it a Twitter feed? Is it a hashtag? Is it a blog? Is it a YouTube channel? Where do you go to connect with like-minded people? And so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to add one in there. I'm going to say the Keep Indiana Learning YouTube channel, because we all know that we're here now. And someone said that they spontaneously stumbled upon this a little while back, and they've been here ever since. So that could be the place that you go to learn and to grow. Podcasts is another thing that we can look for. Twitter hashtags and Twitter chats. Another one that I'll put up there in case you don't know about it is the Indiana Connected Educators Slow Chat that's available on Twitter, and they have a hashtag, and I'll add that in case people haven't checked that out yet. All right. So let's all share there and crowdsource that. And we're gonna have this in the resources later so that people who are watching, or you can check back and look at some of those PLCs that people follow, and maybe you'll find one, a new group of people to connect with. So what is our takeaway for today? Can you take one of these above action items and try to apply it to your professional learning experiences and give opportunities in which staff can look at the initiatives of your school corporation and choose what they're most excited to learn about? Can they create their own learning plan to work towards and have different learning goals depending on what they want? Almost like a choice board for teachers, which is something, again, that we always talk about with students. Do you have a catalog maybe of teachers that are on your site and are welcoming to their peers and want people to come in and observe their classrooms or test strategies? Can we take advantage of those aha moments and really build upon those and bring it back to our desks and back to our classrooms and not let those things get lost in the shuffle? What can we do to join engaging professional learning communities with each other? So my challenge to you as we leave here today is to maybe take one of these things, either working to be a co-creator of learning in your classroom, joining a PLC if you have one of those, or even going into someone's classroom and observing and doing, being more spontaneous. So if you don't want to grow up like I don't, and you're still singing that Toys R Us jingle, right? Just drop in the chat one way that you can commit to infusing some fun back into your learning. I'm interested to see what everyone has to say. So again, thank you so much for having me, Lena. I had such a great time today. If anyone would like to reach out, we have our digital learning team email there, and we would be happy to connect with you.
Yes, and we will definitely share that email out because we want to hear more from you, with you. Thank you, Alicia. This has just been amazing. So much fun. And you're right. That earworm of I don't want to grow up, I'm a Toys R Us kid is going to be stuck there for a while. Better than Baby Shark. I don't know. Did I just throw a new one in there with Baby Shark?
Sorry, everyone. If you're singing it for the rest of the day, I apologize. Blame that on me.
That's all right. It means they remember what we're talking about, and that's what it's all about. Thank you guys so much. We have our final live stream event coming up at 3:30, so we'll see you back in just a few minutes. Alicia, thanks again.
Thank you. Have a good one.